Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today I've got a super fun tutorial for you guys on how to go in towards your invert. I go through all the different elements such as grip points you'll need, strength you'll need, and I give you guys examples of what to do to make your way towards this invert. So follow along, feel free to pause the videos as well. Feel free to message us if you are confused about anything, and don't forget to train both sides as well. Let's get started. All right guys, for our first move, we're going to be doing a pencil hold, otherwise known sometimes as like a crunch hold. Pretty much what we're doing is making sure that we can support our weight of our body in our arms, because when we do an invert, we need to be able to go upside down and hold that weight in our arms. So this is a good way to test and also to strengthen to be able to get towards your invert. So there's a couple different ways to do this. What we're gonna do first is just stand next to the pole, and you're gonna bring one hip in front of the pole, bring that same arm down nice and low and squeeze it into the pole. Come up onto the very tip of your toes, bring the other hand just above. From here, what we're going to do is squeeze, so we're trying to use our biceps to pull our chest up. We're gonna bring one leg out forward, squeeze through our core, and try and take the other leg off the ground. Yeah, and then come back down. We want to be up really high on our toes so that you don't have to lift your legs really far away, because it can put a little bit of a strain on your back. What you can also do in this position is bend the knees up a little bit, so you can tuck the knees up a little bit and try and hold in that position as well. Making sure that the arms are bent so you know you're using your biceps rather than straight and just hanging from them. Yeah, so give that a go. Make sure you're trying on both sides, and I would say aim for around 5 seconds. If you wanted to be a bit of a pole ninja, you could go for 10 seconds. Next one, we're gonna do similar position. This time we're gonna try and bring our legs up as high as we can go. So this one is strengthening for when we do end up going upside down, is trying to get those legs off the ground and trying to incorporate our core into the movement as well. So standing in front of the pole, bringing the hands down nice and low, and instead of just bringing the feet off one at a time, we're going to try and bring them off both at the same time and crunch as high as you can go back down. Normally I say to try and aim to touch your knees to your elbows, because then that gives you somewhere to go, whereas if you just go as high as what you think, you might not go as high. Yeah, I'll show you again. Try and make sure you keep that pull and don't drop the arms. For extra, I can do a couple in a row. Make sure you do both sides as well. If you're not quite getting up that high to start with, that's fine. After doing it a few times, you'll definitely notice a bit of a difference. You might find that the arms just need to work on the strengthening, or you might find that your core needs to work on the strengthening to bring those legs up. For our next exercise, we're going to come down onto the floor. These ones are called horizontal pulls, and they're great for being able to hold your invert when you're upside down and opening out into that beautiful straddle position. So very, very important when you're starting to invert. What we're going to do is come all the way down so that we're in our armpit. The pole should come in line with your bra strap a little bit or a little bit higher. We don't want it at our ribs. If you're finding your skin is catching the pole, just put a t-shirt or put like a little tea towel or something there. We're gonna reach our hands up nice and high for this one, so arms are straight, and then we're gonna push our heels into the ground to get our hips off the floor. From here, we wanna try and make sure not pushing so we're arching, we're keeping our body in a nice straight line, and then I'm gonna pull up with my arms to try and get my sternum to the pole and down, or sternum to your hands and down. What we don't want to do is crunch up like this and then down. This is the horizontal position that we'll be in when our legs are up over our head. So we want to make sure we have that strength to be able to pull up, but mainly from here, lowering down so that we can get our legs up over our head. A good way to do this, guys, is in doing reps and sets. So try and do about 5 to 10 reps each side, and you can do 2 to 3 sets depending on what your training session is and how you're feeling. For our next one, we are going to do what I like to call dish invert. So this works on the strength that you need to be able to hold the invert, but also the positioning as well. I find a lot of people find this position actually a little bit harder, or this conditioning move a little bit harder to do than when you do invert. So, you know, if you can get this really well, it's a nice and safe way to practice your inverts, which will make them really strong. So what we're going to do for this one, we're going to make sure that when we're in this position, we're right up in our armpit like we were before, to give it the same effect as if we were inverting. We're going to have our legs out straight, and we're going to make sure that we want to try and take away this arch underneath our back when we do our dish. So both hands are going to come down bent for this one because we're trying to mimic our invert, and we're going to bring our chin to the chest at the same time as we bring our legs off the ground. Then we're going to open up, pull with the arms to try and come up, then coming down and then together. When you do this at the top, you want to make sure you squeeze your legs together, and as you come down, keep your chin to your chest. This one you'll really feel in your core. You might feel it in your legs as well. And you'll see if you don't quite have the mobility or flexibility in that straddle, you might find your legs come up a bit higher, which might happen in your invert. So doing this sort of stuff as well as some mobility exercises to get into the right position will really help you for your inverts down the track. We're now going to practice getting the grip that we need when we first perform an invert, or first go upside down. So this is the grip in our legs with having one foot in front of the pole and one foot behind. So we can actually do this position upright, and you've probably done this position as a climb before or as a pose. So what we need to do, put one leg behind the pole. You can flex your foot if you want, but for a challenge you're going to point it, and we're going to bring the other leg in front, bring it just past our knees, and then coming up. From here, you want to try and think about being able to hold. You can pull your chest in a bit, because when we're upside down, we're going to be holding all the way in that one. Yeah. When we do it, our position is completely in the legs, and we don't want to be holding on with our hands when we're upside down, because you can start to then pull yourself off the pole. So doing that position, even trying to take one hand off, but really getting used to that and getting comfortable with that, so that you know when you're upside down, you can hold your body weight. We're going to jump down to the ground for this one again. This is our last one before we get upside down and do a full invert. This is just more of a mental preparation to make sure you know where your legs are going to go. We can do a couple little conditioning exercises from here, but we want to lie all the way down on the ground, similar to the setups we had for the other ones. And what we're going to do, hands are going to come into a nice comfortable position with them slightly bent. So we don't want them completely straight, but you don't want them all the way down here either, because we do want to work on pulling a little bit. When we come up, you can start with your legs tucked, you can start with them down, it doesn't really matter. We're going to bring the outside leg, so that the leg that's furthest away from the pole, we're going to bring that up, and we're going to bring it in front of the pole. The other leg's going to go behind. At the same time, we're going to lift our bum off the ground and try and shoot our feet up as high as we can, aiming for the ceiling. So this requires us to pull our hands down at the same time. So my hands are above. As I pull down, I lift my legs up, hips up, one leg in front, one leg behind. You could then slide your hands off and then practice holding that position with your legs. To come back, hands on, slide your bum down, and then slide the legs down. Okay? For a little bit more advanced, as you pull up, I want you to try and lift your shoulders off the ground. So as I come up to here, I'm going to pull up and lift my shoulders off the ground. And then I'm going to relax them back down and over. So that pull is really going to help when we eventually go completely upside down, so you know you have that strength to maneuver, and you know you have that strength to be able to lift those legs all the way at the top. Make sure you're practicing this on both sides, and I would recommend jump on the ground and do this about 5 times, and then stand up and try and do it up, just so your body knows which way you're going. Well done everyone for making it this far. We are going to get upside down now. How exciting. So what we're going to do is we're going to use everything that we've done, and we're going to put it into practice. A couple extra things you need to know when you're going to go upside down. Starting next to the pole, ideally we want our inversions to come from a place of control, so we don't want to throw ourselves into it. So try not to start really back really far from the pole. We want to start in nice and close so that when we step through, we're pulling ourselves up, helping by kicking our leg up, but we're not just throwing ourselves into it. So there's a difference between creating some momentum to assist you or just throwing yourself around with this momentum. So up on the tippy toes, shoulders, want to make sure they're in a good position so that they're supporting your body as well. Hands just above head height. Yeah, so we want to pull with the arms as we come into it. When we go through, we're stepping with that inside leg, and as we come back, we're going to start to lower ourselves back and get our hips up nice and high, legs up at the same time. From here, this is where we can just slide down to the ground if this is your first invert, to make it nice and safe, really slow, chin to chest, and then coming down the same way we came out of our other move. Yeah, making sure that when you do this one that you are focusing on pulling and you are focusing on making sure that your legs are in the right position and that you're holding on really tight. And lastly, we are going to try and open our legs out into a beautiful straddle position. And this is probably the invert that you saw that you wanted to do that has made you love pole and want to join pole. So we're going to do that first position that we did. We're going to invert up and we're going to keep our hands on. We're going to start working on bringing our legs down and out. So I'm going to face the other way so you can see my legs as I do that. So tippy toes, stepping through with the inside leg, come up all the way. From here, we want to make sure our arms are nice and tight, so we're going to make sure we pull and squeeze on. With our legs, we're going to bend them down into this little froggy position, making sure our hips stay up to the pole. Then we're going to open our legs out. From here, you're going to bring your legs back on and tuck your chin to your chest, just as we did before, to slide out nice and slowly. Make sure the shoulders come down onto the ground first, and then you pull yourself up. When you do this position, guys, if you're finding it is hard with that straddle, you might want to stretch your straddle first. You might want to do a few of those dish inverts. When you do those dish inverts, you can hold that position to get a feel of what it's like to hold a straddle. Always make sure that you're nice and grippy when you do this. If it is your first time, have some mats underneath as well, or if you have somebody around, get a spotter to spot you. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of the videos. Don't forget to tag us as well. If you want to see some more amazing content, feel free to reach out if you have some ideas. Otherwise, stay tuned, and we have some more coming for you very soon.